Hello, I'm Professor Martin Green and I'm the Chief Executive of Care England, and I'm here with John Woodward, who is the founder president of Busy Bees. And we've been working with Busy Bees on an initiative which they developed, which was about a salary sacrifice scheme to pay for long-term care. And I'm really pleased that we formed this partnership because, John, it's a really great initiative. Can you give us a bit of an overview about the initiative and where you think it could go in terms of delivering a solution to long-term care?
Well, from when we started the nurseries 35 years ago, we were always looking for a way to make it more affordable to parents. It's always been expensive. If you're going to pay people the right type of money, if you're going to provide the right facilities, that's the only way to do it. So one way to do it was to develop the childcare voucher scheme. So we developed that a number of years ago, and it's been incredibly successful. We wanted something that was, we're operators, so we're coming from a very practical point of view. There's no political agenda. We're not saying it should be one way or another. We're simply saying, what is it we could do to make it work? And the salary sacrifice scheme was proven. We had 100,000 users. And it was introduced so that employers could help their employees. So it was a recruitment retention benefit. It paid the carers. It wasn't subject to any fraud, and it worked. So ignoring the politics about it, we just simply looked at something and said, could that work for adult social care in a lifetime system and help people make that care more affordable?
Yeah, and I think it's really great that Busy Bees has started to do much more intergenerational work. And so I suppose you're not only looking at the needs of younger people, but you're also recognising that often parents are supporting not only children, but also their own parents. So this is a really good and proven initiative that we can roll into older people's care. In relation to the Green Paper, what's your view on where you think that is heading?
Well, I would like to think it's heading to promote open discussion and giving people the opportunity to have the dialogue which was meaningful. I'm concerned that's not what it's going to do. I'm concerned, and I haven't got anything to worry about in terms of a job or worrying about my position. This is something as initially a father of a child who we wanted childcare and a son of a mother who needed care. So that's very simple. I've been in the position where I've been able to help my mother because I could afford to do it. But I'm in a very small minority of people who can do that. So when you look at what's happening with the Green Paper, my concern is it's a rehash of 20 years discussion. We talked about the demographic time bomb in the 80s, and everybody knew it was going to happen, and nobody did anything about it. And then suddenly it's a problem, and therefore people have to do it. There is no doubt there's a huge issue in terms of affordability and resources. We have to get more money into the system. The current Green Paper, I think, doesn't get over the problem of somebody starting a dialogue which can be attacked by the media or the opposition. And this is not a them or us thing. This should be something that we say, is this a good thing for society? Ignore the politics. Does it work? And I'm concerned, I might be wrong, but I'm concerned that the Green Paper doesn't promote open dialogue. It's really messing about with the status quo, and the people who are generally taking part have all got a vested interest in not being very radical.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I think one of our challenges is we have a real opportunity to be radical, but the whole of the way in which this initiative has been set up in relation to the Green Paper means that it's the same people putting forward the same ideas and views that they have done for the last 20 years. And you're absolutely right about the demographics. We know that the demographics are upon us, and yet we have still got a bit of inertia from the political class. And I really agree that we have to take this out of politics. It has to be about a societal solution, not a political one. And what I would like to see is a consensus that all political parties will come together and coalesce around a solution rather than an endless debate. And I do think we've got to try and help them to see that this isn't about politics, it's about people.
I entirely agree with that. I think there is the opportunity, but I think we've got to be brave. And I can understand why politicians don't want to stand up and create that dialogue, because they're instantly attacked. And actually, we should be looking at a can-do situation. The salary sacrifice only does certain things. It helps taxpayers in the long term pay for either their care or their dependents' care. And it works. However, it doesn't do the right thing for the whole of the population. And I think there's a danger we just look and say, well, let's not do that because it doesn't answer every problem. Well, let's get on with it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And one of the things that we can do, if we develop things like the salary sacrifice, it will help the people it helps. But then we can focus our attention on the people who need support in different ways. And so what we can do is we can craft a solution which is based on having a range of different options that are suitable for different people. And I think one of our challenges is the government think they have to come up with the final and best solution for everybody. And actually it will take a lot of different solutions if everybody's needs are going to be supported.
And one of the things, I used to be a teacher years ago and ran a therapeutic community. And I'd go into meetings and we would ban people saying, I don't support this. You could only say, I'm suggesting this. And then it cuts a lot of the conversation because people love the idea of objecting, but the idea that they're going to say, but here's a better suggestion. That's where we're falling down. And that's where we've got to be brave because it's a massive problem. The numbers are huge and we all know it. Go back to your intergenerational bit. We already know that if you mix childcare and elder care together, both parties gain. We've dipped our toe and done a little bit of intergenerational stuff, and there's a lot of people. It's not unique to us, but there's so little about. But we know it works, so why don't we do it?
I think one of our challenges in this system is to mainstream what works and to make it work for everybody. And I also think not only are there these wonderful benefits from intergenerational work of having nurseries and care homes together, but it also helps to enable people to work in the care home because there is childcare on site and they can have confidence that their children are being looked after. So it really is a win-win. And one of the things we've got to do is identify the initiatives that win on several levels so that those are the things that we need to mainstream. It will be a long time coming, but I really think the movement for nurseries in care homes is starting to gain real momentum. And it's great that Busy Bees are in the vanguard of that because the more you do, the more you will prove this and the more and more people will take up this idea.
Yeah, I've recently been in Japan. Look, I think we should just concentrate what's happening in the UK, but some of the stuff, we've done a pretty good job of exporting what we do in early years around the world. We're in 9 countries, but we started for our children. So the very first step was get on, sell our house, develop this site and do it. And if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't be doing the things we are today. And therefore, we can develop the ideas and then push it further. And this is a worldwide issue. The Japanese know they have such a small amount of women in the workforce, and a population getting older, that they've got to do something. And I don't know a country that really doesn't have that issue. But for the UK, we ought to be some of these things we know, but isn't it weird that we take so long to put some of those things into operation? And they're really no-brainers. The salary sacrifice is one part of an answer, but every time I look at it, it's basically, we'll just get on with it.
Yeah, and I think this is part of our challenge, that we live in a society where people are so frightened of being criticised that they don't do anything. They're sort of poleaxed by the pressure that may come from one side or another. But when things are proven to work, we should get on and do them. And I also take your point about the fact that we should be looking across the globe, because it is a global problem. And if we see something that's working somewhere, we can adapt it for our own situation. So we know it's a global problem, so we need to think global, but we need to act local, because the solutions need to be within communities and at a local level.
Yeah, and they should. I mean, we've always had an ambition that we develop a national and an international network of local nurseries, because that's where the need is. I think one thing that may be helpful is that if you look when we really first started, the investment world had no idea what we were doing. Now we are backed by some of the largest investment groups in the world, and education is the hottest topic, and everybody wants to get involved. And they also recognise what a huge opportunity, because this is not either private or not-for-profit or maintained. This is a mixture. We have to have a mixture, and people have to work together. But the beauty is, I think, when you look for how you can develop things, it doesn't all have to be government. The investment banks, who understand it, they understand numbers, they see that opportunity, and I think we'll get quite a lot of support for that.
Well, I agree, and one of the challenges is that we often have this nonsense of it has to be done by the government. Well, actually, we need a complete and comprehensive group of people coming at this, and we should judge people by what they deliver, not by who's funded it. So if you're a person needing a service, frankly, you're not bothered whether it's a government service, a charity service, or a private service. What you want is the right service that delivers for you, and that should be our measure of success.
The question shouldn't be, is it for profit, is it not for profit? The question should be, is it good? Does it deliver what people want? Is it an effective use of funds? And I think if you look at investment in the care sector over many, many years, the real investment has come from the private sector.
That's very true. In fact, I was only saying recently that there has been no government investment in new facilities in the care sector for 30 plus years. All the money that's come in has been investment from external investors. And what we need is for people to understand that and to acknowledge and embrace people who want to work in this sector and invest in this sector, because ultimately we're going to need far more facilities in the future, and we've got to find ways to bring in resources. And if it doesn't come from the private sector, then frankly it'll have to come from the government, because these resources are going to have to come from somewhere.
I was recently in a meeting where somebody said, I'm not doing any service to the care sector because I'm letting the government off the hook. And you think, when we started the first nursery, we were criticised because it wasn't the thing to do. We were told we were undermining the fabric of society. And our view is pretty simple: go and do it ourselves. Because if we campaigned for it, possibly our children's children might get it, but the answer was get on and do it yourself. And I think there is the will to do some of that, but we've got to stop the scaremongering in terms of, oh, I've got this view, you haven't, so you are my enemy, so we'll attack it. That's nonsense, because most of the stuff comes to sort of part of the middle ground, and we should have a healthy dialogue about it.
Yeah, because ultimately people are in need, and what we have to do is find a solution to that. So I'd much rather people get on and do something rather than talk endlessly about the reasons why they can't do it.
And then we can review practice, and if you modify it, that's great. You don't have to come up with the perfect scenario at the first go. but you need to keep that healthy dialogue. And I like change. I like growth. I like the problems that creates. But a lot of people are just scared of change, and they'd rather keep something that doesn't work rather than the unknown. And we've got to get past that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We've got to embrace change because ultimately society is changing. So we've got to make sure that both the institutions, the services and the resources of society keep pace with need. So we cannot be in a position where we just cling on to things because they're the things we've always done. What we have to do is to take some radical views about what the needs are in the 21st century and make sure that our system responds to that.
Yeah. So there is hope. There is hope. There are things that could be done, but I'm not much of an academic, but like a brave new world, you've got to embrace those challenges and change the things you can change, and the other things, okay, we'll deal with. But we really do have it in our own hands to make it a better system.